Hey folks, this is Coach Steve here. We're now going to do the recurve section of what we're doing. I'm hoping I'm talking loud enough for y'all. Last time I understand I was talking a little bit soft, and we still have the jets coming over. Now, just like Coach Jeremy did, I'm going to kind of pantomime shooting a bow for you recurvers. I'm a left-handed shooter. I have shot right-handed twice in my life. I mean, I've switched twice. It's possible to do that if you have cross dominance or whatever. But again, just like Coach Jeremy said, when you're holding the bow here, and as a lefty you'll hold it in your right hand, you're going to just make a cross and bring your hand to your mouth, and that makes the T. That's going to be what you're basically trying to do. A lot of people, when they start out with a recurve, if you're new, they're scared to get the string close to their face. So I'll sometimes teach people to go ahead and use the back of their thumb here. So when they come back, they're here, and the string is right here. Once you get more comfortable, then go ahead and come on back. Now, my hand just slid automatically into my competition target shooting. When you're shooting a hunting recurve, you're not going to anchor under here. You're going to try to anchor under the corner of your mouth. The reason for that is the corner of your mouth is under your eye. Your eye tooth is right here. And so if you can consistently get to the corner of your mouth and line the string up with your eye, then you're going to be in line with what you want to shoot. And so that's the basics of when you're trying to have your posture there. Now, I'm standing square to the camera. A lot of times when people shoot, they want a little bit of an angle. So if I was a right-handed shooter, I would turn my feet just a little bit to the right side of the target. Sometimes what that does is it lets my elbow clear. As a lefty, of course, if I was as a lefty, I angle sometimes, and I come back, and you can see me extend out here. At the same time, I'm pulling back here. I see a lot of people sometimes with a recurve, they hold it here, and they try to pull, and all their elbows are bent. This is not how you want to do your weapon system. You want to push out. At the same time, you're using your scapula muscles, your shoulder muscles to pull back. Not your bicep, guys. I know you want to use a bicep. Ladies like them. But you want to use your back muscles because they're stronger and you won't fatigue as much. So let me move on outside. Let me move on outside to my bow. I'll do a few demo shots. Now, the bow here is a competition target recurve. It's a 3-piece bow, and I'm going to end up with my back to the camera for a second because as a lefty I have to turn around this way. This particular bow, you can see it has a long stabilizer. Jeremy talked about the stabilizers helping with accuracy. It also has some parts that help with the left-right. But as far as a target goes, I usually like to shoot square to the camera. Out of my quiver, I'll take an arrow. I'll slide it into my bow. For any kind of archery, you want to set your hand first so you grasp the string, and then you set your bow hand. When you come into the bow, you want to grasp it not in a death grip, but just nice and loose. I'm moving my hat out of the way here. I'm coming up, my arm is out. I'm coming back. Now, what you saw there as I shot, you may have seen this piece. It's a piece of metal. It's called the clicker. Your compound bow at either end has cams that roll and they form a stop. In this case, with the competition recurve, the clicker tells me when to let the arrow go. The clicker ensures that every arrow gets the same speed. One of the things that is a problem with a lot of people is when they're shooting, they over-aim. Your muscles have tension in them, and you don't want to hold the bow at full draw for too long a period of time. And by that I mean, all the studies have shown that if you can get the arrow off in between 4 and 7 seconds, once you have reached your anchor, you start exerting the final tension, your accuracy is much better. Some of the Korean women actually get their arrows off in 2 seconds. They come up, they acquire the target, boom. One of my habits, poor habits, has been holding as long as 14 seconds. When I do that, the arrow goes low, but my muscles have lost a lot of the tension. Let me take another shot. I'm gonna try to hold longer. What you saw there was I had better back tension, so my follow through was better. And you also saw at the same time, that was probably a better shot. My shoulders lowered to try to square, to get them relaxed. And you may have also seen my finger spacer fall off my tab. Now, for those of you who perhaps have an injury, or you have a upper body strength issue, there are different ways to draw this bow. When I hurt my shoulder in the past, one way I did it, I'm gonna come down and then come up, because that seemed to take care of a shoulder issue. So that particular style, it lets me come under and then come up. When I had to reload the arrow, that was because my clicker, my arrow went past it, and I had to reload. The other style I'm going to show you, watch what my arms do here. Okay, John Magera, who was an Olympic archer in 2004, worked with me a number of years ago. I'd come back from an injury, and he said, if you'll start eye level, and then as the front hand goes out, the back hand pulls down. He said that helps your shoulders drop naturally and uses back tension very well. I've used that style a lot. So what I'm trying to say is, figure out how to draw the bow that works for you. Figure out how to draw the bow that works for you. But once you figure it out, then consistency is accuracy. There have been times in tournaments where I didn't take my Advil. I'm an older archer, and so I've gone from shooting flat, setting the bow, pulling back. I was fatiguing because in some tournaments you're shooting 72 arrows plus your warm-up arrows. So in the middle of the tournament I would switch and go to a higher drawdown so that I would have a different muscle effect, so I wouldn't fatigue as much. My accuracy didn't suffer because I'd practiced all these ways enough. One of the things on this particular bow, some of you know, it's a three-piece bow, and so as you get stronger you can change the limbs. The limbs come off, and you can change the limbs and increase your poundage so the arrow moves faster. When you're shooting indoors at 18 meters, I know guys who are shooting 25-pound limbs. This particular bow right now is at 32. When I shoot 70 meters and 60 meters, I'm shooting about a 36 to a 38-pound bow with some expensive arrows to get through the wind. Now, again, on this particular bow, it breaks down. People like a different stabilizer of different lengths. This one comes apart pretty well. I like it a lot because it travels in a car well. The side rods, which you can see this way, they basically, I'm trying to balance out the bow so that when it comes to rest, when it's just sitting here, it's just kind of there. If I take on this bow, because it's designed different, if I take this off, it'll just flip forward like that, which is why I have back rods to help balance that out. So when I draw then, I come up and it just rests right there. Now I tend to not use a finger sling, but I have one on. If you want to zoom in on this, I've got this was a finger sling made by Rick Stonebreaker, who won Indoor Nationals bear bow. So it goes around the wrist. I put my hand into the grip. The loop comes back on a finger, and then I've got a attachment to the bow in case I get nervous or my hands are sweaty if I'm outdoors. But let's move inside now and look at the other bows and look at my my Archer. For your basic recurve, this is a bow that you can buy commercially in Bass Pro and a lot of other places. It's marked on here 22-pound pull. Probably a strong 9-year-old and then up can pull this bow. If you zoom in here on the center part here where the handle is, it has a rest on both sides. It has a rest for a left-handed person, and then we stuck a $2.50 rest for the right-handed. So whichever way you want to shoot, if you have multiple kids, $2.50 a rest, and this bow will work for any child or any adult you have in the house. Now, with this particular bow, it's got more of a straight handle here. And it has on the string here's what we call a knock set. And
brace height question.
Brace height question, okay. On on the bow I just demoed down here, on this particular bow, it's a 72-inch bow. The brace height is measured between the back of the handle here and the string. This is part of what Jeremy was talking about, like with the peep sight on the compound. On a recurve, you really want to play with your brace height. Too close and it'll slap your arm, which is why you want to have an arm guard on. Too far apart, too far back, and your limbs aren't going to be working as efficiently. At some point, and this bow is at 9 and this is what I call a T-square, but you check your brace height. And this bow is at 9.5 inches. And so for me, it quiets the bow at 9.5 inches, and it gives the string comes off the top of the limbs nice and quiet and efficiently. On my other bow, I've got a 27-inch Bernardini with long limbs, so it's a 73-inch bow, and my brace height is 10.5 inches. So this is something you and your pro shop will have to, to work on as far as which is the best brace height for you. On the bows you buy in the store, the brace height can still be changed, and you change it by actually twisting the string. Untwist to get it closer, twist more to get it higher, to where you find what you want for you. Now this particular, let me show you a different recurve. This is a bow we use a lot at Fort Sam. It has a short stabilizer in here just for balance. This is removable. It has all the holes that you need to put sights on if you want to. And this is a right-handed bow. When we do the demo, a lot of jets coming through. Do the demo, I'm going to instruct Jeremy in how to shoot 3 fingers under. So if Jeremy will come over now. Thank you. Let's move it out of the way.
And I have my arrows here.
Got your arrows, okay.
So I'll be shooting from here.
So right now we've got an archery stand for his arrows. You can pick these up, or you can make one fairly easy out of a cardboard tube and have a base plate for it, and the arrows will go in here.
I'll do a 2 finger under.
Okay, Jeremy is putting on his hand a 3-under tab, whereas all 3 fingers will fit right there, and it will go under the arrow and it attaches here. The tab I had is more of a fancy Olympic style. This is what I hunt with, a 3-under tab. So I don't mean to put my back to the camera too much, but okay. Jeremy has chosen to put his feet at shoulder width apart, so he's balanced. That's where you want your feet. You don't want them too close together. Shoulder width apart. He's got just a little, the toe on the left foot is just a little bit back. That helps clear. You notice he's also wearing a chest protector. I was also wearing one. And what else? You've got your arm guard on. So he's basically ready and to be safe and to shoot. So Jeremy, I want you to pick up an arrow by the nock. and slide it on that side of your wrist and then underneath the knock set. So many people, when they get a bow from the store, it will not come with this little brass bead that's right there. And so what they'll do is they'll just go home and the arrow, they'll put it on the string, it'll ride up and down, which means, of course, the arrow hits the target up and down, up and down. Once you get your brace height, or you like how the distance here is, then you have to set where you want your arrow. Usually on a recurve, you're going to want it slightly above dead level. And let me show you this real quick. You want to hold that arrow? Mm-hmm. Okay. So on this square here, it has marks. I'm putting the long arm of the square on the arrow rest and snapping this into the string here. Now, according to this knock set is about almost 1/8 of an inch above dead level. For this bow, with the arrows he's chosen, that's the most accurate position. You will have to experiment, which is why a lot of people, before they buy a 50-cent knock set and put it on with pliers, they'll use sewing thread or something like that, or if you're a traditional guy, some sinew, tie a couple of knots and move your arrow then move your arrow as you shoot up and down until you find where the arrows like to group together. They want to hang out like a gang, be friends. And so in this case, you can see it just slightly, there's a slight downward angle. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and shoot. Jeremy has his 3 fingers underneath. Let's see how he does this. Let's see how he brings up the bow and see what happens here. Okay, the first thing as a coach I noticed is the string contacted the bill of his hat. What that tends to do, and you're not going to want to be on a big buck out there and all of a sudden your string won't come back. If your string hits the bill of your hat, it's going to drive the arrow down, and it's going to do funky things because the string's not coming off clean. Okay, this time let's try another one. This time I'm going to watch his shoulders. I want his shoulders to stay pretty level. I want a tuck and suck posture. I want his stomach kind of in, and I want to clench his butt, frankly, his cheeks, because that gets the tension, it stabilizes the core. So as he comes up, let's see. Okay, that's a really good shot. If you noticed, his hand moved back about 4 inches. That told me he had good back tension in his shoulder blades. He wasn't using his bicep. He came up and he got set, and then he drew the bow. Now, from when we first started, look at his feet now. He's got a more open stance. So for comfort, he's decided that he wants his feet to be not quite straight to the target. The target's right there, straight. And what he did, he's moved his feet open a little bit, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. A lot of the coaches now always want their people to be a little bit at an angle, and Jeremy has moved into a comfortable, repeatable spot. It must be repeatable or you won't have accuracy. If you don't have accuracy, you won't have fun. Try another one. I'm going to watch his elbow to see how far in line his elbow is with the actual arrow here. That was a really good shot. He ended up with the point of his elbow. He ended up with the point of his elbow just about 3 inches past outside the line of the arrow. The closer you can get, the more accurate you will be. That's a great shot. Always remember to congratulate people when they make a good shot. This time I want you to draw the bow a little higher and then come down. Okay. What do you think?
Just gotta make sure I had that clearance, but yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you're in a tent and you're bow hunting with a recurve, you're not going to do that high draw. But what that let Jeremy do was he came down, his shoulders stayed level, he got the string into his face, he anchored hard on his tooth, and he had a really good arrow. Now, this time I'd like for Jeremy to kind of make some mistakes and kind of do a small push-pull and just see, you know, bend that elbow there. Yeah, we get this a lot when we start. And we need to get the elbow. When you're this way, you're not strong, so if you'll come down, come on down. Now this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move his elbow. He's going to do this again. I'm going to reposition him. First, I want his elbow up because he's stronger in the back, and then push out with this. And now he's in a good position to go ahead and shoot. It's a great shot. Great shot. So what we're trying to say, folks, is archery is such an individual thing. You'll have to get your bow matched to your body. Jeremy and I are different heights and different widths and different ages. And so whether it's a compound or a recurve, we need to get the peep sight on the compound to fit the distance between his mouth and his eyes. For me, I need to make sure, because I can't use a peep, I've got to make sure I'm anchored all the time in the same spot. I want to make sure that I can pull the bow back repeatedly. Too many people will end up and they'll get a bow that's over strong for them. They'll go to Bass Pro or somewhere and somebody will sell them a 60-pound bow, but they can't even get the bow to break over. So what you need to do is start light so you can develop form. Once you have your form, you're good to go. So are there any questions at this point?
So one of the questions on the comments was, what if you're shooting low and left, I believe it was. So it depends on the setup that you have, how your bow is set up, especially with the stabilizers, what type of bow you're shooting, whether it's a compound or a recurve. And we mentioned the stabilizers are meant to stabilize the bow, and kind of, honestly, they're kind of there to compensate for your shot. So if you pull hard or low one way or another. So it depends on your setup and your shooting process yourself. How do you shoot? So it's not something that we could tell you and it's a cure-all. It's one of those things we'll probably have to see you how you're shooting, what your setup looks like, and then could give recommendations from there.
Let me just piggyback onto that for a second. As a left-handed shooter, when I fatigue sometimes, when I let go of the string, my hand moves low and right. So if you're a right-handed shooter and you're fatiguing and you're not putting enough pressure going forward, then you're going to flop here. That's why you want to put enough forward pressure when you release so it goes straight. So if you get a consistent low left, you're not pushing enough and you're doing a little flash here. Could be the spine, it could be some other factors, but it is an individual problem that we need to individually fix.
Yeah, it's definitely one that get your coach to watch you shoot. If you don't have a coach, you could even take a video of yourself and send it to us here on Warrior Archery, and Steve and myself will take a look at it and give any recommendations that you guys are looking for. But yeah, it's something like that. When it's a form issue, it's one of those things we have to look into the individual themselves. Now, if it was an equipment issue, equipment, we could talk to you right over the phone, the video, and tell you how to adjust equipment. But when it comes to a form issue, it's something definitely as a coach we'll have to see and to evaluate and then give a recommendation from that. So I hope that answers your question. Right now, the next segment we're going to cover is equipment selection. So for compound shooters, shooting mechanical release, hinge release, or you know, different type of releases, as well as arrow selections. For a recurve, we do tabs, gloves, even arm guards.
Different kind of arm guards. Some people need a short one, a long one. Yes.
And then we'll touch on adaptive archery equipment. Some adaptive archery equipment that's common that you'll see. One of the most common things you'll see is a mouth tab for mouth tab shooters, as well as stools and such like that. So we'll come back on at 1300 Central Time. So in 30 minutes, roughly, 1 o'clock for those of you that don't know what 1300 is. But we'll see you guys then, okay?